What's going on, y'all? It's Greg. Greg said it. Back by our second of the day, inspiration, motivation. We had a nice live today. Shout out to all you who came by and checked out our live. We talked about the revelation of spring football for Colorado thus far. I know we probably right around a little before the halfway point of this spring. And we just kind of talked about some things we see and what we like. And it was a pretty positive conversation. You know, we talked about how the running game is looking, how the line is looking, some people who pop out to us, and we're going to be watching. We're going to be watching and kind of revisit it at the end of spring and see, maybe we have some ideas of what's coming down the pipe for the summer. We know some guys still on the way, and maybe some portal pieces we'll know. But we got a lineman that's possibly coming from FAMU, as well as another linebacker they're looking at that's coming from, that's in the portal, let's say from Central Florida and Georgia. So there's some of the pieces that could be coming. But I wanted to kind of talk about something that a lot of people don't really talk about, but it kind of caught media headlines. We seen a glimpse of Coach PrIme, and they showed it. So they put it out there of him getting on to the guys about not really being the most responsible. Really a couple things. They were leaving this stuff in the locker room on the floor and just being like, what's the big deal? What's that to do with football? And Coach always talk about having character and preparing his players for a future outside of football. And then we also saw him show the glimpse of an email from a professor who was pretty much complaining about the guys not really taking the academics seriously and not taking full advantage of the opportunity, and kind of showing some character traits that don't line up with what Coach PrIme talk about. He wants certain character on and off the field. And so we've seen both of these situations where they didn't live up to it. And as he know, and the guy has been around in his mid-50s and just being a successful guy, a principle that I heard a long time ago, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And when you see people think, especially young guys, that I can just practice bad character and it don't roll over into areas that you think is not related, but it's just a mindset and a habit that you form that could easily make its way into areas unknowingly. And even though it's not necessarily directly related, it is, because your mindset, your lack of discipline can easily become an issue on the football field, because it becomes part of who you are. It becomes part of your character, your nature. And it's right that Coach PrIme confronted, not only because he wants the best for their future, but like I say, indirectly, it could easily become a thing that causes them to not bring the proper focus and work ethic and discipline on the football field, or preparing for a game, or just the preparation component is a big part. And if you have that kind of attitude, you're not going to properly prepare. And if you don't properly prepare, it can put you in a situation where you can cost the team. And we've seen how attitudes and mindsets affected last year, really at every level. And when you're trying to weed that out of your program, you got to deal with it everywhere it shows its ugly head. It rears head anywhere. You got to point it out. You got to challenge it. You got to contest it. Because if you don't, that would be the cancer. That would be the thing that spreads through the team and it lead the team into mediocrity. And you don't have room for that. When you're trying to go for greatness, usually a person who's great, they try to do everything with greatness. They don't be great over here and suck over here. Eventually, you're just not going to be great. Work ethic is everything. Mindset is everything. And this is a good example for all of us, that how you do it one thing is how you do everything mentality. Like even in your career, you can do something and say, I don't really want to do this. It's not really what I want to do. But you're developing a mindset and a habit that can easily follow you wherever you go. They say, what's the common denominator of every situation is you. You can change careers, you can change fields, but if you're lazy, you're lazy. If you just lackadaisical, you're lackadaisical. If you don't care, you don't care. And it don't matter where you at. You can say, oh, I get paid more, and maybe it would be temporarily, but who you become over time, eventually it's going to come back out. It's going to be like an addiction. It's going to be hard to get rid of, because how you think is how you think, you know. I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like going to work today. It don't matter how much money you get paid. Once that becomes your processing, it is what it is. You don't care. And that's the beauty of sports that teach you that, because I know a lot of people and a lot of sales professionals and manager hirers and companies, they look for athletes because the athlete typically has to learn, especially if he's made it to higher levels. He has to learn a certain level of discipline. The average person doesn't have to learn how to go somewhere and not want to go and not really have an option. See, when you play sports, you got to go to practice when you don't feel like it, when you're hurting, when you're tired, even when you're sick, playing games and all those situations. In sports like football, you're outside, you're playing in the heat, you're playing in the cold, depending on where you are. You're playing in the rain, you're playing in the elements. I think soccer has that component too. But just athletes in general, they put their mind and their body and their emotions to the limits. And they learn to push through it despite how they felt. They know how to separate. And that's what a lot of hiring organizations look for in a person. Because the last thing you need is a person who decide not to come to work because they just have an emotional situation, or they're going to come to work but they can't focus, they can't produce. You need somebody in those situations who know how to separate the two, who know how to overcome adversity. And these sports should be teaching these guys that. If they take advantage of that, if they do what he say and let the character be developed, instead of saying, what this got to do with football or bucking or transferring or whatever, know that everything you learn in these sports, if you do it the right way, whether you go to the league or not, it's going to benefit you in the future. It's going to benefit you to have the tenacity and the wherewithal of what you're capable of doing that a lot of people may not, because they never push themselves to that. But you're always pushing yourself. You're always pushing yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, especially at higher levels, especially when you're trying to win games and all of that. All of these things help you. May not be in that sport, but they help you in life, because life is full of surprises and things you don't always have control over. And then the stuff you do have control over, you better make sure you have control over. That's the beauty of it. So as we watch these young men, we can always learn, but we should also know that we have to practice these same principles in our life. Do your best to be organized. Do your best to be responsible. Do your best to be prepared. Everything that he's expecting of them, that's what's going to make us successful. Doing it when it hurt, doing it when you're afraid, or doing it when you're tired, doing it when your mind is just really want to be somewhere else, but you find a way to still be consistent. Like I always say with these videos, I have to find a way to be consistent, regardless of what I think, what I feel. I have to make sure I get it done and just be consistent. And that takes a lot in itself, and not worrying about factors you can't control. Who's going to look at it? What's going to this? What is going to that? Just be consistent. And I know a lot of that I learned to be able to do from a very young age as an athlete. So there are benefits. It's benefits to being an athlete. You know, when you have your kids, you say, why am I really doing this? I don't really care for it like that. I don't like certain things. But it's certain things that you learn. There's certain traits you can pick up on being an athlete. So much respect to those young boys. You know, we get into some people can do certain things better. But just the discipline of showing up every day and giving your all is plenty to be applauded. You never want to overlook the personal traits for the skill traits. You know, sometimes we expect them to have certain skills and abilities at this level and that level. You know, you want to go to the pro, but it's bigger than that. So I'll take this time, salute to all those guys who show up to practice every day in the elements and in the pain and all the pressure that they have that we're not right now, or some of us never have. We respect that. Y'all keep up the good work. If you are watching, if you see it, respect. But with that, Greg said it. Make sure y'all like, share, subscribe as always. And I'll talk to y'all soon.